Charizard EX is considered to be one of the best decks in the current format thanks to its high damage output as well as its Infernal Rain ability. This deck focuses on setting up multiple Stage 2 Pokemon quickly to overwhelm your opponent, and once you've gotten past the initial setup, this deck wants to trade positively with your opponent, which is easy thanks to Charizard EX's high HP and solid attack. Pidgeot's quick searches are mostly used to help find bosses' orders or to set up more Charizard EX. But how does the deck actually play in today's metagame? The Charizard mirror match is very interesting because whoever goes first doesn't really matter, as the player with the first attack will often only take one prize card. However, this lets the player with the second attack be the first one to damage their opponent's Charizard EX. This will often result in both players trading 2-hit KOs, as Burning Darkness only does 330 damage when your opponent has managed to go all the way down to one prize card. The mid-game is where Professor Turo's scenario comes in, as it can remove one of your opponent's attacks from their Charizard EX, effectively buying you a turn. If your opponent ends up taking 3 prize cards at some point, I would take this opportunity to quickly KO their Pidgeot EX with a Vitality Band or a Defiance Band, as KOing Pidgeot EX often prevents your opponent from finding what they need every turn. Gardevoir EX is a slightly unfavored matchup. Your best chance in this matchup is to send as many of their Refinement Curlia as possible to the Lost Zone with Lost City. Once you've taken 2 prize cards and your opponent uses Gardevoir to KO your Charizard EX, returning the KO on their Gardevoir with either your Charmander or Minior is often a good response, as you force your opponent into a 7-prize game where they KO 3 Pokemon EX and 1 regular Pokemon to win. This turns the KO they take on your single prize Pokemon into a wasted attack, which often lets you push ahead in the late game. If your opponent does play aggressively and KOs your Charizard EX when you've only taken 1 prize card, your best response is to return the KO on their Gardevoir with another Charizard EX. This will tie up the game at 4 prizes apiece, but most importantly, prevent them from using Reversal Energy to return the KO on your Charizard EX. If they want to take 2 prize cards on their next turn, they will likely have to use Zacian V, which you can send to the Lost Zone with Lost City and tie up the game again, further preventing them from using Reversal Energy. Finally, if your opponent establishes a wide bench, Avery can reduce the options they have for future turns. Controlling the prize exchange is the key to coming out ahead in this matchup, so focus on when your opponent gets to use Reversal Energy and Counter Catcher. The Lost Zone Giratina matchup is one of your tougher matchups, but workable with careful resource management. The scariest part of this matchup is the path, as it shuts down both Infernal Rain and Quick Search, preventing you from getting off the ground. Setting up a few attackers quickly is very important in this matchup, as is managing how you take your prize cards. If you take 3 prizes too quickly, you will often fall behind to an opposing Roxanne and struggle to play cards under path. Early on, you will often either KO 2 Comfey or just 2-hit KO a Giratina V that's using Abyss Seeking. Your opponent is unlikely to take many prize cards early, as Lost Zone Giratina often requires Abyss Seeking to set up properly. Bench Jirachi as quickly as you can, as this prevents your opponent from using Sableye to put your Charizard EX in range of a Lost Impact. Hold on to your Star Alchemy though for as long as possible, and here's why. Star Alchemy can save the day if your opponent annihilates your hand with Roxanne and Path. This is especially effective against Lost Zone Giratina, as they don't typically play Lost Vacuum. If your opponent manages to poke your first Charizard and then use Lost Impact to KO it, they can use Star Requiem to KO your second Charizard EX, along with a Roxanne and a Path to try and prevent you from KOing their final Giratina V-Star. If you're able to establish 3 Charizard EX in a game like that against Lost Zone Giratina, then that would result in you coming out on top. But all of this being said, you still want to watch out for this deck, so click here to find out how to play it and get ahead of the competition.